voice from, well, not a voice from beyond. It's
It's
3 sessions too soon. I mean,
oh.
that's what you get for being a diviner.
Oof. Woof.
Maddie said it. Session 55, everyone.
There we go.
Or 54. Math.
Now the pressure's on. I got to do something on session 54.
I'm gonna be out of town that weekend, just so you
Oh,
know.
it's okay. Well, look at the time. Ugh.
Your webcam's still covered, Matty.
Oh, hi there. All right, there we are. I'm now showing up on 2 cameras. And maybe next time I'll go super insane and I'll have all 3 of them on for the show. That way you can get some dramatic angles on me.
Well, I got Bright, but I'm missing Noralai now.
Oh, I have all 5 of
Look at
yuns.
you all of a sudden.
Well,
Let me refresh.
That's what matters. The one on the stream. There we go.
I got everyone.
All right,
Hey.
we're good. The internet and Roll20 are working well, so no one touch anything, no one breathe. Just we're all gonna sit here and just sort of smile at each other for a couple hours so nothing messes up.
I'm not actually a vampire. I have to breathe. Derek, breathe.
All right, so we're let's do a quick little review because hey, the gang is all back together.
Sorry,
And not only are you together, you're together +1 to bring. Well, it's not officially a unit of 5 yet, but there are 5 characters that are interacting with each other currently, and we'll find out more about what's happening. In fact, why don't we begin with the little in-character recap to kind of give a warm-up and for anyone out there who's missed a session, the current events that are going to lead into whatever we do tonight. We have investigator Jacob Stillwaters, and so in our recap and review, we can sort of zoom in at a very dramatic angle here on investigator Stillwaters. And what's going through your mind right now? What is happening?
Well, we need to end up coming to terms with that at this current point. Allow me to look back at my notes, as it has been a fascinating little tidbit. I have noticed, as I was doing an investigation of a certain degree of mushrooms, one that has been found in Green Shield, and to end up gathering a sample, I end up finding myself out here. Now, that being said, it appears I am not the only one, as I have had the wonderful moment of ended up running into a little girl who ends up having some form of Shadowhaw dialect dog. Potential spy of the Shadowhaw Empire, I'm unsure. A tiefling that rides a griffin, perhaps a scout of some sort. Perhaps they're in collusion, unsure. We also end up having Miss Triddle, yes, who is a part of the Gnomish Cartographers Guild.
Calligraphers.
We'll have
Sorry.
calligraphers. Yes. Yes. And one Mr. Mordecai Silverleaf from Oldport, who... Now, this wouldn't have taken much outside of the odd mushrooms that have been growing. We pull one small mushroom and suddenly it's growing out of the head of a much larger and far more vicious such mushroom. Now, this was not found in the report that I ended up having the privilege to end up reading earlier, so perhaps that is a new development. However, that is not the most pressing concern person. The most pressing concern personally is that of a... Well, apparently they're familiar with my sister. And that, after 10 years, we'd had almost given up, and now suddenly they speak so matter-of-factly. which is very odd considering if they've spent so much time, have not reported the missing persons. This tells me a lot about the character of this group.
Well, then, perhaps in their presence here, as you all are sharing a beach, and you are surrounded by these mysterious figures, one of whom has conjured a beast of fairy tale lore, and all of the other interesting aspects here. You can get some answers, as an investigator is wont to do.
Well, one can hope. However, I have the sneaking suspicions that they will be less than cooperative, particularly the one that refers to themselves as Norlai, as they have yet to end up giving me a last name or proper introductions and seem to end up having a amount of spite for authority, which would end up telling me that she does in fact have criminal connections, so that is one that I have to end up watching out for. But then again, there has been the Luciferus epidemic, so that is maybe common amongst tieflings, and given the fact that this group has two, it's something to be concerned about.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. If I recall correctly, her first words to you weren't "good day, well met, how are you?" It's, "Are you a cop?"
Yeah.
Probably.
Probably not the best way to start off.
Yes, well, at this point I'm saving judgment. Oh, and that also reminds me that the one who introduced himself as... Oh, where is that note? Yes, the one who ended up introducing themselves as Celine, just Celine, ended up making a point of it, of causing a significant point of destruction of property.
Yeah, they of the 8 mushrooms that were making this phase circle, 1.5 kind of survived. There's the one that you have that was kind of cut into spiral ribbons that I think you place in an evidence bag, and then Celine ended up kind of trying to scoop up the necrotic soup of the one that was sort of microwaved and at the same time sort of genetically, broken down into fluids.
Very much a shoot first and ask questions never sort of. Yeah.
All right. Well then, let's move over. In fact, let's move to Bright. As Jacob didn't seem to have a lot to say about you.
True.
So perhaps you have your own words to say about him or yourself or others.
So, I mean, he's right about us in some ways. I mean, we're definitely tend to shoot first, and not ask as many questions. Mostly Celine. But,
Why, thank you. How nice of you.
In the words of my mentor, I will make a note.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a reason for that. Because sorting things out, that's really kind of what the police are for. So, I mean, that's really his job. So we don't have to. So we really appreciate that, though. So thanks a lot. So it's been kind of an interesting day. I'm happy to meet someone who knew Jade probably even before she was the Jade that we knew. I mean, it'll be an interesting... I'm definitely looking forward to comparing notes. It's also going to be really sad because I don't know. I mean, if it's been 10 years for him, he probably doesn't know what she was like when we knew him. So it might be tough for him to understand. I don't know. We'll just have to see how it all works out. Okay, that's all. I'm done. Bye.
All right. Well, someone might have to administer some tough love to Jacob here. It might be you, Bright. I hope you're ready for that. All right. Let's pop over to Mordecai. And Mordecai, what's going on in your noggin here?
Well, I am not surprised that things just kind of exploded and melted when Celine dished out her overkill.
Ain't nothing like it, Mordecai. Ain't nothing like it.
with all of the things that we were coming for obliterated, I feel like, again, we have failed another mission. Again. And with...
You don't really have a good reputation.
No, we don't. With meeting this investigator Stillwaters, it's hard because Jade didn't like me all that much, but I don't know, just kind of the way that we have so far told him that we have seen, met his sister, and now she's gone, is going to be a tough conversation for all people involved. So, not looking forward to that. But it's got to be done.
Someone's got to do it. That's...
Got to do it.
You know, making the tough decisions, doing the tough things, whether it's delivering information, investigating things, taking on challenges. Those are the qualities of heroic people in times of need. And, well, Mordecai, I mean, with you kind of, you know, you're dabbling in those waters. You drew this this creature into being from the stories that you were read. You know, these fantasies you had as a wee babby Mordecai. This could be your time to shine, to step up and, you know, to make those hard decisions, because you've seen what being passive can do in a world where there are so many other people, individuals or factions, that are willing to, you know, to give it their all and even sacrifice if necessary. Not that, you know, hopefully you don't come to a point where you have to make a huge sacrifice. Not that you haven't already, given the fact that you've lost your life, even though you're still around.
The funny part about that is that I think Symphonics has already predicted it.
Well, you can let those predictions be known. But let's move on. Let's go over to Celine. Celine, what is happening with you? And then we'll conclude with Norla after.
Yes. Geez, you melt one mushroom and everyone gets in an uproar.
More than one?
Yeah, I only turned
allow
one
me
into...
Hold on, allow me to end up checking my notes. Technically, Celine is correct. Only turned one into soup. The others were barbecued.
Exactly. Technically correct. The best kind of correct. But, no, how do I put this? Any sample is a good sample. As a scientist, I would know this.
Okay. You just got to convince the 4 other people that aren't scientists.
Yeah, I just have to convince the 4 other people.
Or
who
5,
aren't
including the
scientists.
quest giver.
Oh, Mr. Halver will be fine. We got the stuff that he wanted. He wanted samples of the mushrooms. He didn't tell us in what state he wanted them. Not to mention, there was no way that they were coming alive.
For all of you out there who play D&D...
Mushrooms the size of toddlers?
This
really?
is...
You think that we were going to let them take them alive? Really? Because I don't see that happening.
This is where you can call a charisma-based sleight of hand or a dexterity-based deception or persuasion. Because so too often are we relegated to our skills being simply charisma is only for those or dexterity is only for those. But here, we walk the line, and we are risky enough to do a charisma-based sleight of hand. I'm only razzing you here, Celine. So, anything else would you like to add?
Hard, lethality. You make it so hard.
What can I say? But no. Simply put, we got the samples that were required, and that's all that needs to be said. In the end, if you think that toddler-sized mushrooms would, that we would have the ability to capture toddler-sized mushrooms, then
And maybe
it's
a
very,
public size.
very sorely mistaken.
Never have
I don't
children,
even,
Celine.
I don't
Never
even,
have children.
I don't even think that the investigator here would have manacles of a size that would suit such a small creature.
How many
That's
gnomes
why
do you think I've taken into custody?
Probably not all that many, considering, you know, most of the gnomes around here, minus a few that we've seen, are currently part of a giant flesh tree.
Why do you think there's so few of them around?
Flesh tree. I'm not gonna leave it at that. Norla, you have anything to add?
I think we should change the subject now, thanks.
Well, I'll tell you real quick. I, as the DM, I have to get up and take care of something here real quick. If you all want to continue talking in character, but I will BRB, so I can do this real quick, and then we'll continue with Norlai officially. All right.
No, I'm off the hook
Yep.
now.
For now.
I mean, we're still live, right?
Yeah. For now.
No, too much time will have passed. He comes back. We just need to move on.
That's funny.
No lie. The spotlight will be firmly set upon you. I can guarantee you that.
Meh.
You are my number one suspect at this point.
Of what?
Well,
Everything.
you may notice that I have written 1 page of notes in your encounter. You may not notice that I have a significant amount of notes before that.
Yeah, and
He's been following us.
Oh,
that's
if
kind
you
of
wish to pursue that. As opposed to someone who is responsible for the destruction of a warehouse, whose brother has been here tied into Lucifer's here dealings and purchasing thereof. I'm kind of curious, Norlai. Did you feel
Okay,
any guilt when you were selling it to him?
What?
I'm very confused.
No guilt whatsoever.
What?
True sociopath, this one.
What are you talking about?
Oh yeah, I can flip on a dime.
I'm confused. This is why I don't like talking to cops. They're confusing. They say weird things.
Quick, everyone swap characters. Kitty, I would love to do that.
That would
We
be
need an
fun.
organized point. Like everybody on stream pass to the left, so I would be played then Mordecai.
Just everyone change your name.
Yeah, Norlai would be playing Jacob. Bright would be playing Norlai. Celine would be playing Bright. Celine would be, or Mordecai would be
We
playing.
need to
Celine.
shuffle better because Norlai and Bright are very similar.
It's true. Everyone pass your wig to the player on your left.
I don't have a knife to pass this.
Oh,
I'm not sure you'd want the wig back afterwards.
oh my.
See, okay, so Gnarly, the secret to dealing with the police is you don't want to have to remember what things you've told them are true and what things you've told them are lies. So never tell them anything true.
Okay.
That's bad advice. Bad advice.
Celine's having a hard time swallowing the balls.
God damn it, Derek.
Blissfully unaware.
Of course he is.
Doesn't have feels good.
Finally swallowed.
Kitty, just wow.
Yeah, to quote one of my favorite characters I've had the pleasure of playing with, "You have no chill, do you?"
love that line. It was so good. No, it was, why do you have no chill?
Why do you have no chill? At least Aladdin is still muted.
Yeah, no, I'm just sorting some stuff out on the sentence around.
Okay, how are the balls?
Good, very good pork.
Nom nom.
Yes,
Well, you know,
nom,
human
nom.
does taste like pork, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised. A little salty?
Not
Human
that
is
I'm
very
speaking
game.
from experience.
Human is very gamey.
Surprisingly, we're more of a scavenger animal.
Very, very gamey. Oh, I mean, stream just
Everyone
had
is
that.
still eating each other. It makes me so sad.
No eating each other, please.
Oh God, what was that? What was it? I posted it on the Discord. The reaction to Bright accidentally eating a fly in mid-flight.
Oh, I'm a monster.
Sorry about that, everyone. I have returned.
Oh, good. I hope everything's good.
Yeah. No, it wasn't an emergency. But before I settled in for our session here, I was a derp and I just had to take care of something else here. So, all right.
It's okay. It was very
We all
serious,
are.
heavy in character.
Oh,
Strange role-playing
all
when we
right.
were gone.
Yes,
It was wrong.
we totally weren't talking about eating humans.
See, you got to be careful in a game
We're
like
all
D&D.
vampires
Simply
here.
specifying humans doesn't make it any less weird to say.
Yeah.
Oh well, I got a stick of Chinese barbecue pork balls, and I was eating them, and Derek just happened to be like, well, you know, human tastes most like pork, and I'm like, yeah, but humans are a lot gamier than pork is.
Oh, he said something even worse than that.
Forbidden
before.
knowledge.
He
Oh,
had
did-
headphones on them.
Have we already used our one F-bomb or something for the session?
Nope.
Or?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right, we're holding that in reserve?
Haven't
Okay.
touched out one swear.
All right.
Haven't touched out one swear.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hold on,
there's
hold
a
on,
certain
hold on.
number of swears that we can do without using the F-bomb.
Well,
That's
technically,
PG-13 still.
That's right.
Technically speaking, we can technically say the word shit as many times as we want.
You
Because
can.
that doesn't break PG-13.
Comma, but
Comma.
Oh yeah, no, not gonna.
Now,
like, drop
if y'all wanted to do something like what they did in Firefly, you know, they cussed in Chinese because it doesn't offend our sensitive American ears here.
Yeah.
I mean, you could
Or
always
do what
make
they
up.
do in Spy Kids and say shiitake mushrooms.
You could do that. If you wanted to swear an oath in Infernal or Draconic, I'm sure you could come up with a lot of very interesting sounding things.
The only problem with that being, as soon as I go, I have the mouth of a sailor. So
All right, so then it's a restraint issue here because once the
It
dam
is.
breaks, then
you've
Once
seen
the dam breaks,
BTM.
it will. The flood will come.
You've seen the
The
language I
flood
use as
will
mouse.
come.
well then why don't in order to help reinforce the walls here, let's go to our pure innocent tiefling, who is is
Criminal urchin kind of person.
I was gonna say as pure as the wind-driven snow, but I guess a criminal urchin could also describe Noralai. So Noralai, whateth uppeth, as they used to say in ye medieval days.
Well, we found the mushrooms and we were supposed to pick them, but someone lit them on fire, and she's like, "Oh, it's still a good one, but we're supposed to get 6 of them, and I wanted Herbert to have one because he really likes mushrooms, and we didn't get enough. So, and none of them are fresh, and when he said, "Hey, pick some mushrooms," he obviously wanted fresh mushrooms because, things change when you cook them, So they're different now.
They are yes, they are Cajun style mushrooms right now.
And then that this guy shows up and he's being weird and questioning and accusing, and it's not nice at all.
Is there anything else that you wanted to put out there? What do you think of this guy who was walking along the path?
He's weird, and he asks a lot of questions.
Yeah. Yeah. What makes him weird? I'm
He
curious.
asks a lot of questions and like says stuff, and he doesn't really know us, and it's kind of rude to assume things.
What do you think of the marks on his face?
I don't know. People get tattoos all the time. People use paint and all that.
Does Norlai want a tattoo at all?
Probably not. I haven't found anything I like.
I'm swimming in them, so.
Yeah. Yeah, Mordecai is Mordecai's a menu. Yeah, you could just settle down in a city and just sort of open up your own sometime. Maybe you could also heal the tattoo right after you make it too. You know, you could just sort of, there's not that 2-week waiting period or whatever where you got to wait for things to cure up. All right.
Of, that is something that I'm
Yes.
going to have to go and get refreshed when we get into Old Port.
You
I'm gonna have to go see a tattooist and get my tattoo refreshed.
That is true. It has been
Something that I am very pissed off at the Shadowhar about.
Yeah, it has been. It was eaten away at because of your regenerative abilities restoring you back to normal. And then of course you probably lost a portion of that along your shoulders when you were partially skeletonized.
Luckily it doesn't reach that. The tips don't reach that far, such as I would get affected by the skeletonization.
Oh,
It's
it
more
wasn't?
the-
Okay.
more the regeneration.
I'll have to go back because there was a very wonderful picture of Celine's back and her tattoos that was posted up in art, and I'll have to.
I know my fiance did one. Mordecai did one.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, maybe when you get back into town, or if you go to someone that you trust for that sort of a thing, or a temple if it has a religious significance, and you just don't want to get one from a civilian. Then
It does have a religious significance, so yeah.
Well, let's see if we can proceed, as you're not going to find a temple. Oh, hey, real one, thank you very much for the follow. Welcome. Because you're probably not going to find a wandering Ouija's worshipping tattoo artist in this coastal forest area here.
Nah. No, I'm not. Well, unfortunately, but
So we'll take you to the coastal forest. And now it should be noted that while there still does show fire on the map, the fire was doused out by Celine, who summoned some rain to have things come down. And we had paused last session after the capture or the roasting or whatever of these little mushroom creatures. And Jacob had one that he had bagged. Celine was cleaning up this kind of browny green pile of mushroom down here. And we had one here that was being mischievous between Bright and Norlai, but Mordecai, you came over and were you the one to smite it? Or was that the one? What's that?
I don't remember quite right.
I think he had the last hit, but Fenry was holding it.
Yeah. Because you wanted to also teach Fenry to start sniffing these things out, and he certainly has a good nose full of this creature and a mouthful. Because I think at one point he got an attack in and tore a little chunk out of it. So we can consider Fenry to have the taste of these things. There was no sort of immediate threat that was making itself present as the forest fire was put out. The stream continues to babble and burble down to the saltwater here, and the cabin from which you all had emerged on the beach here, presumably still has Mr. Halver at least partially hiding in it. Is back up to the north, but we'll pick up right here. Nothing. We haven't taken a short rest or anything yet. We just went from 1 week to the next, and bada boom, here we are.
All right. Well, looks like everything's toast. He looks over to Celine.
Well, this one's a little more cold.
Nah. Fair enough. So, is there anything left of the ones that were charred? Or are they completely incinerated?
Tell you what, why don't you make a survival check, and we'll see if you can scavenge anything.
19.
Okay. You can find you find remains. There's nothing that's necessarily it's not like you can just kind of scrape off a little bit of a burnt toast and you still have some good toast underneath. But there are at least charred remains of the mushrooms. And so if you handle them delicately, you can probably transport the crispy bodies back to Mr. Halver. Now, I mean, with Celine's logic, they are still mushrooms, just in a different state. So maybe something is worth more than nothing. So there are charred remains.
Yeah, I'm gonna gather some of that up.
Okay. What are the rest of you? Do any of you want to continue doing any more looking around? Do you want to try and take samples, or Jacob had swum across the stream and seems to be. I think you were making some notes in your book about the specimen that you had.
I am currently trying to end up performing a preliminary examination of the remains of the. We'll call it a sample at this point. Yes, sample
Sure.
Seems to be fairly apt for what it is.
I'm gonna have Henry sniff around to make sure there's no other ones.
Okay. All right, so Norelai, Fenry, and Herbert are going to go on a bit of a patrol and make sure that there are no residual things. We have Mordecai collecting burnt samples in the ashes. Bright, are you doing anything in particular?
I'm not sure. I think I'll probably. Oh, there I am. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I think I'll just wait here. Maybe I'll go with Mordecai, and maybe I can help him. I think that would help.
Okay.
Who's carrying the one that Mordecai killed?
I'm just taking all the samples, collected them all.
I'll grab
Okay.
this one, then.
And Celine, besides scooping up the mushroom residue, was there anything else that you're doing in this time?
No, just cleaning up is really it.
Okay. Oh, and
If,
what of Jasper?
I think I'll have dismissed him.
Okay.
If nothing else, maybe we can scoop up enough mushrooms so that Mr. Halver could make us a nice soup.
Well, I mean, hey, that's one thing, yeah.
What is Bright's take on sentient vegetables? Is that kind of like an animal, or does that not count towards her diet?
I haven't really put thought into that so far. I guess if they were actually sentient, then it might be a problem. But I don't know what happened with these. I mean, we didn't really talk to them. I don't know for sure that they are sentient. Yeah, they could just be, they could just be acting on reflex, like a Venus flytrap.
Okay.
Well, they're sentient. They're just not cognizant.
I don't understand the difference.
So the difference is that a cognizant being is capable of their own thoughts, whereas a sentient being might be able to move and act on instinct, but can't actually think for itself.
Okay, those are interesting definitions of those words.
We're exploring cultural differences here, everyone, between gnomes and elves and not even just Mesomasca, but Mesotopia as a whole.
Must be our dialect of common. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess the important thing would be to find out what mushrooms actually do and what powers them. I mean, maybe since they're plants, they could be like a hive mind. Maybe they're just like the fingers of the central mushroom creature somewhere. Maybe it's like an interdimensional creature that has little outcroppings here and there, and that's how the Fae travel. I don't know. Fae are weird.
They are very weird.
They are. That got pretty disturbing pretty quickly. Are you okay, Bright? Do you need a second?
Well, so I've been spending more time than usual talking to great old ones, and maybe it's rubbing off.
Yeah, maybe so. All right, then. Time's gonna pass. Samples are collected. The water continues to flow down. The sounds of the distant waves lapping on the shore can be very calming. We are we're still in springtime. It's a fairly nice day. It doesn't look like it's gonna rain in this part. At least not anytime soon. Nice breeze. Cool in the shadows, but it's warm if you stand in the sun. But your sample collection time has come. There's really nothing else usable that you can find. As for you, Norlai, and why don't you or through Fenry roll a perception at advantage, since you're going around mushroom hunting. Still, see if you can find anything.
Probably through Henry.
Okay.
Three.
Whoa! Look at that. All right.
He's such a good boy.
That's a green number. Yes, it is. Yeah. So we have a, going around sniff, 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 sniff. And while the others are collecting their thoughts and samples here, you actually find, with Fenry's help, one of the little white mushrooms that you saw in Green Shield. That were in the hotel rooms and presumably in other places.
No, Herbert really likes these ones, so we're supposed to be collecting the mushrooms.
Yes. Would you like to collect this sample or simply report it, or do you just want to leave it behind and it's your own little secret?
I'm going to use Mage Hand to pick it up.
Sure. With Mage Hand, because you're not necessarily an arcane trickster here. If you wish to do this in a delicate nature, go ahead and roll a just make a spellcasting check. Just roll charisma to see if you can delicately manipulate this to kind of scoop it out and not just sort of. Okay, with a 16, so you summon the Mage Hand, and you're getting it there, and you're working on concentrating on this thing and trying to. Okay, so you get the hand, you kind of do a little dig, a little scoop, and you're here, kind of puppet mastering this, and the Mage Hand bloop, ends up scooping underneath this mushroom and boop, 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 floats it back to you. Or in front of you, wherever you want. It doesn't have to put it right in your face.
Yeah, I need a... I don't know what to do.
Do you wish to give this to someone?
I'm gonna just message Bright.
Okay.
And tell her that I found another mushroom.
Hey. That's good. That's
Hey,
good.
Right, if it's one of the ones that was in the hotel. What do I do with it?
Uh-oh. Let me come over. I'll be right there.
Okay.
Mordecai, I have to. Norlai has girl problems. We'll be right back.
Okay. All right.
All right, so that she goes off into the brush after Norlai here. You two are together, and Bright, you see that there is this this white kind of little puffball mushroom that is being held rather expertly in a mage hand.
Oh. So you recognize this from the hotels.
Yeah.
So that's not great because it means that whoever controls that mushroom can see us. But you know what we can do now? We can turn the tables on them because we know, well, if Mr. Halver will help us, because I didn't learn the spell because or did it for us. But if we have this mushroom, we could find out maybe who's responsible for these.
Yeah.
Or you could just feed it to Herbert. That's good too.
Herbert, you're gonna have to ask Mr. Halver if you can eat it after he looks at it. He'll probably let you know. Or if we find more mushrooms, you can have those ones.
But
Those are really good
Norlai,
find.
didn't you tell me it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission?
I don't think I said that.
I heard it from someone.
Hmm.
Sound like something you'd say.
I don't use big words like that, though. I say things short and sweet.
Like me. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. I'm going to go ahead and cast Detect Magic. This has to be a ritual.
As a ritual? Okay.
Because I don't have it prepared.
Very well. All right.
Pickle God.
Yeah, so Bright apparently is a little flustered here.
Slipped into gnomish for a minute.
Yeah.
It's okay. I got better.
So yeah, this goes on, and it's going to end up glowing with some divination magic.
So I want to just kind of pace around this area and look for anything else. I'll just do like a search pattern. Gnome Bravo.
Oh, sure.
Battery sniff around too.
It's the old Bright maneuver. All right. So yeah, you go off pacing. Mordecai, the girls here have been away for a little over 10 minutes by now. I mean, there's been no screams or
everything.
yeah. I mean, you can dig stuff up, try and recover samples. Put them into a bag because presumably you only want to cross the water one more time instead of ferrying over one little roasted mushroom bit.
Yep. So I look around to see where they went and what they're doing.
They're not terribly far away. So I don't know. Neither of you, Norlai or Bright, you're not going out of your way to hide, are you?
No,
Okay.
just as soon as I finish the ritual, I'm just going to be pacing back
Sure.
and forth.
Okay, so yeah, Mordecai, after a little while, you'll see Bright's pink contrasting hair kind of stand out against the brown and green of a springtime brush and woods as she's kind of going in a little a pattern.
Find anything?
I don't know yet. Did I find anything?
You are sensing some low. You're getting more divination magic, but nothing that is as advanced as this puffball. Maybe it's because there are some more mushrooms that will be growing here, and so they're growing with this intrinsic magic, and so you're finding little, like, it would almost look like a glitter effect. Not that there's like thousands of them everywhere, but you're finding little sparkles here and there in the brush and in the low-lying and the dark places where mushrooms would be wont to grow. You are finding some little magical traces of not as large or as advanced a puffball as what Norlai found.
So it's kind of interesting. So do you remember a while ago before we got separated, and it was actually right around the time that we met Selter, and there were all those mushrooms that were growing in the hotel rooms.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so Norlai found one of those.
Oh,
Also, all around, I'm seeing what looks like baby versions of those mushrooms, and eventually they'll grow up and they'll turn into those big puffballs, and then that's not great. So, I don't know what we should do. I mean, it's good to know what these kinds of where these things come from, and we might be able to like stake out or spy here, and see, if anyone comes by to collect them or anything like that. Or we could just set the whole place on fire. That's always fun.
Well, we
I
could
mean,
collect
that
some
seems
and
like
have Herbert eat a few more.
I mean, that
Something.
on fire seems like it would be a decent way to get rid of, like, I don't know, mushroom seeds. I don't know how mushrooms grow. I'm not a botanist or anything.
Yeah.
But
So they have spores, and the spores go poof, and they go everywhere, and that's how they spread. And then the spores land in places, and if the place is dark and wet and just suitable for mushroom growth, then they grow.
that seems
Some
like
of the
what
mushrooms
found
seem to
here.
be evil, so we should. That's a thing.
Well, this is awfully close to Mask of Horns. So
Yeah. I mean, we don't really know all the story though. We know that. I mean, this is obviously very much a mushroomy, fey kind of place because we've got this fork in the river, and that's the sort of thing that fey like. Remember when we explored the cave, and that was the same, and all
that
this dense, rich soil. It's just a very good place for mushrooms to grow. But also, I mean, so there's a kind of a technical problem, which is that I don't know that Mr. Halver actually told us where we are.
Correct.
that's an
So we don't really know where we are, and because of that,
We should just get these back to Mr. Halver, I think.
it's possible that we're actually in Fey territory right now, and that's why there's all these mushrooms.
Wouldn't
Setting it all on fire wouldn't really do anything except
would
irritate them.
wouldn't the cop know where we are?
A good point. Why don't we ask him?
You're really so worried
Dun dun dun.
about him. But
Would you all like to go up? Because it seems like Jacob is still on the side of the road examining the sample and making notes.
after I've finished gathering up the goop into vials, I will considering Water Walk is still active.
How long does it last?
Water Walk lasts. I will tell you.
Lasts an hour.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Yep, you still have some
It's been
time.
probably about 20-30 minutes, so we probably have some water lock left.
Yeah, it's an hour. So, and if not, well, I could just ritual cast it again. 10 minutes, not a problem.
If I walk across water, I'm probably not gonna feel great. Just putting that up there right now.
You don't have to come with. We'll just go talk to him. I like standing in the water. It's fun.
All right.
So Celine is just gonna walk over the water.
Sure.
I'll stand there too.
Mordecai, Norlai, Herbert,
I'm gonna-
and Fenry, and Peggy Sue.
Door right here.
There were baby mushrooms or something.
So, Mr. Investigator Jacob Stillwaters, Manser, this is going to sound like kind of a funny question, but we actually don't know exactly where we are. Would you to tell us?
Now, Matty, just to be clear, I'm pretty sure Jacob seems like the detailed-oriented person who wouldn't go to a place without knowing exactly where he's going.
Yes.
So would it be fair to say he knows exactly the location where they are?
Yeah. I mean, we're not talking, the exact coordinates, but yeah, you know that you're on a beach on the north side. And here, I can even bring it up in a map. Boop-a-doop-a-doop. You are on a beach that is on the north side of Mask of Horns. And for you, I mean, it was as simple like you trekked across, and you are here for reasons outside of the big city.
Well, we're here currently here not far from Mask of Horns. Well, we're on the northern side of it, more accurately, and following the waterway should send you to the settlement right that way.
Okay, well that's not as far as I was afraid we might have gone. That's actually pretty close. So
You
that's
don't know where
good
you
news.
are.
Someone brought us here with magical assistance. And
Magical assistance, you say? Who was it that brought you over?
a nice man named Mr. Halver.
Mr. Halver. Hmm.
He lives in Mask of Horns. He runs kind of a, I don't know what he calls it. A little bit of an orphanage, a little bit of a laboratory.
Lab.
That's not concerning at all, is it?
But those parts aren't connected.
Mm,
I mean,
don't be
they're
so
connected.
sure.
They're connected by halls and doors, lots of halls and doors. But they're not, like, he doesn't experiment on the orphans, if that's what you're thinking. I mean, not much.
He just continues writing it down.
So, what brings you here, investigator?
At this point, I am... The only thing I can disclose is that I'm currently here collecting samples, specifically here tied to particular disappearances that may have happened in Green Shield.
We heard about that.
Yeah, we were there.
Not far off from
We
the
would be
time when you left.
very happy to solve that.
Mordecai, were you recrossing to get back up on the path there, or?
Yeah, I had to mention Dort.
Oh, you de-doored. All right, never mind.
Yeah.
And real quick, while you are having this conversation, Norlai, are you still down to the south trying to sniff things out, or do you want to go to where the conversation is?
Well, Bright said something about baby mushrooms or something.
Yes, she sensed that there are like little developing mushrooms around.
I was gonna see if I could collect a few of them and then feed Herbert a few of them.
Sure. Okay, we will tell you what. Give me a survival, and then we'll see what will go on during the course of the conversation with Jacob. I'm sorry, Investigator Stillwaters. I'm not on such close.
No, I'm not
ties.
good at this.
Okay, so you're just having. I mean, you're taking Herbert. Like the three of you are just going around, and you're having him sniff around everything. You're looking under every bush.
2 minutes later.
Oh, hey, thank you, James Norse. Yeah, I will put that with the other bits that are held aside for you. James, if you didn't see it on Discord, I made sure to make an entry for you as you've been building up a little bit of a stash, and so those will get added. Thank you very much for that. All right, so yeah, the three of you are going to be rummaging around then back in the south, and the others are going to have this conversation. And yeah, Mordecai, I mean, you're not terribly far away. You want to be on this side, which is fine. But you can look across the the brook isn't terribly noisy or anything, so we can have this conversation taking place right here.
Well, that being said, I have the sample I require, and I guess I must end up getting that back to some more experienced hands.
So, if you don't mind me asking, it seems like the disappearances in Green Shield were kind of Fey connected, and here we have a Fey teleportation circle, and I
Which we
thought that
destroyed.
maybe.
Which you've destroyed and cannot confirm or deny, so I have to end up taking your word upon it.
Yes, well, okay, so technically I didn't destroy it, it was Celine.
Yes, I'm noticing that. Creature of impulse, that one.
Very impulsive. I'm not like that at all.
I can confirm this.
I'm right here.
Hi,
I know
hi.
that.
You could at the very least like try and pretend that I'm not here.
I don't have.
Don't worry. We have not ended up forgetting you, Celine. I don't think we could if we wanted to.
But these things are fake connected.
Do you have any evidence of that?
Jeez. I don't know that we could confirm or deny that, really.
Hold on.
Celine's casting a spell, detect evil and good. Is this answering a question about Investigator Stillwaters, or is this something else that you're
For the Fae, yeah, answering his question.
okay? He is not showing up as Faye.
He's not showing up as an aberration, celestial elemental, fiend, or undead either.
Interestingly enough, no. Seems to be just a
Cool.
boring, normal person.
Mordecai's probably pinging you.
I always ping on that, so.
Well, I mean, yeah. I'm sorry. Besides what you
But-
normally pick up in your scan,
You're not in range.
Jacob is not showing up as.
What about the corpses and stuff?
I guess technically the spell doesn't say it has to be alive. So in that sense, I guess the mushroom, the mushroom thing would be Faye, and Peggy Sue also, if I'm not mistaken.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
Peggy
me.
Sue would be a Fae. That's fine. It's like,
Hey,
yeah, no, they're Fae.
And you can prove this how?
I'm a cleric. As in, I am a member of a church. I have the ability to detect these things. It is
As
a
in,
divine
he
gift.
still only has your words.
Words are wind.
Magic doesn't mean anything if you can't prove it.
I can make very bold claims if I so choose. Doesn't mean that it constitutes evidence. Now, isn't that right, Celine?
Give me a second.
It's
Hey,
not wrong.
Doralai!
What?
Could you bring Herbert over here for a second?
I guess.
That does bring up a question. Have you heard of the flower fields and their work with interesting plants?
It's weird to walk on water. Henry, come here.
At least if you trip, it doesn't scrape your knees. You just sort of like roll around a little bit.
Have you heard of them, Investigator Stillwaters?
Investigator Stillwaters, you definitely would have heard of the Flowerfield family. They're very notable.
Yeah.
And
Not given my family's history, yes, probably.
And there have been, actually in Green Shield, there have been generous donations of flowers made by that family to help try and beautify and when I say pacify, I just mean to try and enhance the mood, to ease the tension of people in the city in these trying times. So yeah, just recently the family actually was planting all kinds of flowers and such in the city.
Yeah. Would you be able to quickly put the spelling of the name in the chat?
Of which name? Flowerfield?
Flowerfield. Oh, right, Flowerfield. Sorry, I don't know why I just blanked on that.
No, it's fine. It is. It was compressed into one word though. So as the family name.
And there's also a Snamfi.
And yes, that is the because it is a majority tiefling city. It is primarily known by its infernal name, but the common name is Flowerfield, and this human family is, well, either the town was named for them, or they came around and identified with it. But as far as people know, the two are pretty well linked together, as the Flowerfield as the human family have been around as long as Flowerfield this kind of arboreal or this flower agriculture town has been around. They're old family, well, not really old money, but big money, old money for Mesomasca, and very, very notable.
Yes, I'm familiar with them. They ended up here performing a recent act that ended up here causing the donation to end up boosting the spirits of those in Green Shield. A sizable amount of flowers and other such things just to end up assisting. The family is in good standing amongst Mesomaskans.
Jacob, you would also know that the family recently had suffered its own losses, and the uncle has stepped up to take over.
Tragic. Yes.
Well, I'm sorry. I say uncle from Tibba's point of view as the DM. That the brother of the family has taken over in the wake of the passing of his brother and therefore his nephew.
Yes, I remember him. He was a good man.
Could you move Fenry over to me? I don't control this token.
The reason I ask is because our friend Norlai here has a sentry vine that
His name is
she
Halver.
so expertly
Awakened with magic. So now it's intelligent.
Mm-hmm. He
Good
only
trick.
speaks Infernal, though.
Of course he does.
Jacob, make a nature check.
Of course.
Sentry vine is, I don't know, maybe it's a quaint name for a plant. Just how there's some trees that are called sentinels because they stand so tall and they look like they're looking out over the land. But the name of the sentry vine itself doesn't really,
You're implying that plant of yours speaks.
Hey, Herbert.
What do you want?
Say a long sentence.
A long sentence.
See, he's talking. Do you know Infernal? It's Infernal.
And it's at this point, Jacob starts to speak Infernal very fluently. I have been raised here with tieflings for quite some time, and I've taken a moment or two to end up here studying the language. It ends up helping in my endeavors, and many good fellow investigators and other sentries were in fact tieflings. I served with them for quite some time, and it behooves one to end up taking the time to end up learning the customs and traditions of another's people. And in doing so, I call them brother. So yes, very much so. And a good day to you here, Herbert.
It's very fluent. Not a lot of people learn it, especially not on the docks. Mostly because they're from other places. So.
speaking very well, though.
Thank you very much, Mr. Silverleaf. I appreciate the compliment.
Just Mordecai is fine.
And Investigator Stillwaters, you would know the type that Norlai was talking about because I mean you've been to cities before, or you kind of know All right, so things can get kind of rough on the docks. The kind of crew that hangs out there, of the more nefarious variety. Obviously, there's good people everywhere, but there's also bad people everywhere. And
One second, I have to unlock a door real quick.
yep, do what you got to do. And
I got distracted for a minute too. This mouse came up to me and asked me to pull something out of its paw.
Gotcha.
Now that is fascinating. Herbert, you find yourself from Flowerfield, yes? Senpai? Herbert?
Maybe.
Well, he was awakened in Mask of Horn, so I don't know if he remembers much from Sinamthi.
All I know is that I was able to see Norlai and hear her and respond to her. I don't know anything too much beyond that.
Disappointing, but I doubt I'll get anywhere shouting at a plant. So thank you very much for your time, Herbert. It's been a pleasure here conversing with plant life. You can see that
Forget about it.
Jacob is clearly weirded out on the fact he's talking to a plant and it's responding, but he's trying to keep that calm, professional attitude the whole time.
That guy's just chuckling to himself.
Selena's just gonna slow turn to Jacob and she's gonna be like, get used to it. The way the world's going now.
We are a strange bunch. I'm just gonna put that out there right now.
I'm gathering as such, and I appreciate the forwardness in that regard.
I mean, I've always been a strange bunch, so.
But see, the ultimate problem I have always believed is that a dependency on magic is a dependency upon others' word, and unfortunately, it has cast aside old forms of doubt, and a simple accusation can be set out. I'm not sure if you ended up hearing the event about 6 years ago in Green Shield. There was a man who ended up claiming that another was a demonic presence, and claimed that they were a seer of sorts, that they can end up seeing things, and ultimately it turned out to be a ruse, simply wanted his neighbor to be executed via lynch mob. But it was enough that everyone believed, and when belief is used in replace of evidence, then, well, how can justice be served in such a place?
We might have met that guy. Like, dead. Nobody liked him very much.
Now,
which guy are we talking about? Is this someone we've met?
Investigator Stillwaters. I'm sure that you would agree that, as with any kind of power comes responsibility, yes? And that with any kind of power, whether it be magical or political or anything like that, there are those who would seek to either have it and abuse it, or not have it and claim to do so.
Immediately, as soon as Celine finishes speaking, he just kind of turns to look at this burned down section of woods that's directly behind him, and then looks back at her like, really? You're the one gonna give me this?
No, I am simple. Oh, that's not that. It's just simply saying that people who will use things in their grasp to malicious ends exist, no matter whether they have magic or social power or no power at all, and simply have a sword in their hands. No.
He kind of just waits, like, your point. Like, none of this disproves or does anything to end up throwing aside anything that he has stated thus far.
The point is that there's no point in fretting about it because it's going to happen whether you like it or not, whether anyone likes it or not.
Okay, well, if that's the case, why not end up having him here turn that hand of yours and end up burning down an orphanage? Why not go about, because if it's just going to happen anyway, because that...
I said the abuse of power will happen whether you like it or not. I am not going to do such things. I know better, but there are people who don't.
Notice that even your
I'm not going to burn down an orphanage, Doralai.
Yeah, we burned down a fort.
Really?
You are definitely one to talk, Celine. You have no room to talk at all.
Well, it wasn't really
do not bring that up right now.
Acid burn. She poured acid on the fort.
She poured acid on a fort.
Yes. Wait, I shouldn't have told you that. Oops.
Something she forgot to mention, investigator, was in Aslandia, far outside your jurisdiction.
I'm gonna just go over here.
Orla, you've already become part of this conversation by all means.
Well, Mordecai is part of this conversation from over here, so.
So, I'm really sorry. The current is just carrying me downstream. I can't do anything about it.
Do.
Sorry.
Celine and Jacob.
Peggy Sue's here too.
Yeah.
As it stands, whether that... I have no proof one way or the other. Simply a statement was made. An accusation, no more, no less. Till proven otherwise. That same benefit of the doubt works in your favor there, Celine. I'm sure you would not want me jumping to conclusions on somebody else's word. Certainly not.
For now, touche.
He smiles and places a hand down. Fantastic! Then, now that we're in agreement, and if your business is concluded here, I would like to end up meeting this Mr. Halver.
Mr. Halver. Sure, let us go and meet Mr. Halver.
Very well.
And with that, he kind of looks at his note, and he flips back to one that's written earlier. And when they're off, he will make it a point to speak to Bright.
Yep.
I'm not gonna get left behind here. That would be no fun.
Oh, wait.
No, I stepped off as I got to the beach.
I'll do. Oh,
You're muted,
Mics are
Matty.
off. Mic is off.
Whoops. Hey. There we go. Thank you.
I'll do the knock. It's one hand, other hand, tail.
Yeah. You got it. There we go. And the door opens to
If you
this.
don't have a tail, you can just kick with your foot. You just gotta be light with it.
The door opens to the seaside shanty here, and you all are welcomed inside. Well,
This isn't the same kind of sea shanty I'm familiar with.
no. Though I'm sure you could sing a powerful song, a shanty within a shanty.
What will we do with the drunken sailor? What will we do with the drunken
And
sailor?
Typically place him in manacles and end up putting him in the hold.
Yeah, I think that's
Always putting everyone in manacles. It's better than eating everyone.
Suppose so, yeah.
And out from a back room walks an elder tiefling man. Now, if you remember when he dropped you off, he was actually he only kind of craned his neck through, but he's walking out in full form here. Oh, it's good to see you again. I've been busy myself. I imagine it wasn't too stressful of a time to go out and collect the mushrooms.
Not stressful at all.
No, not stressful.
I mean, it was kind of stressful for the mushrooms.
Oh, I imagine so. That they probably displayed certain properties that were not benign.
Yeah.
Celine incinerated
Also-
a lot of them.
Charred, not incinerated, charred.
I send a message to Mr. Halver.
Gotcha. I see that you found a knot mushroom as well.
Yes, we did.
This is Investigator Jacob Stillwaters of Green Shield.
Yes.
And you're looked at kind of quizzically by this elder tiefling, and he comes up to you, extends his hand. Well met, Investigator Stillwaters.
And to you, Mr. Halver. First name? He shakes his hand. Yeah.
I don't so much have a. My first name's more the Mister part. Just
He just
Mr.
kind of coldly stares at him like,
Mr. Halver will do.
very well then, Mr. Halver.
I have to say, you seem remarkable in some way to me, Investigator. I don't know, have we met before?
He starts flipping through notes. I have no recollection or notes of any encounter with you here, Mr. Halver. However, it does end up here is making me wonder, why is it that you end up feeling a familiarity to me?
There's something... Oh... I can't place it, but there's a familiar feeling. I don't understand it myself. It just seems to be. Are you a practitioner of the arcane, perhaps?
No. As fanciful as many of the arcane arts might be, fact of the matter is they are unreliable for my point of work. Fantastic for direction, terrible when it comes to placing before judgment.
Well, I suppose it makes no matter. And he just kind of shakes his head a little bit and blinks a couple times. Perhaps I must be confusing you with someone else. I meet so many unique individuals that after a while being unique isn't unique in itself.
And yet you ended up making note of my own personhood. Fascinating. And at this point, he shifts the conversation to Infernal. So, Mr. Halver.
Yes.
And he doesn't seem at all surprised when I shifted languages?
No, and he shifts immediately as well.
Mr. Halver, I am left to understand that you knew that the samples requested by you, do I understand this correctly, for the group to acquisition. Well, you knew that they had unique properties that could potentially make them hostile?
Well, you see, there's a lot of things happening in this world that are becoming difficult to explain and they require study. And that is where myself and those with whom I associate, and he sweeps his hand across the others, come into play. I had asked them to come here because this is a good seed bed for the activities of the Fae, which I believe are linked to these particular mushrooms.
More conversations of the Fae.
Were you able to collect 6 of these samples?
No, unfortunately, one of your errand girls ended up deciding to incinerate, liquidate, or otherwise demolish all the actions so that
I got 2 different ones, though, so...
Well, Norlai, you know that you're my favorite.
And by errand girls, he means Celine, not me.
Mr. Halver's eyes is, we're talking about incineration. He just sort of, looks down very, trying to be polite at you, Bright. And then you're...
Not me this time. No.
Are they still talking in Infernal?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, I guess I couldn't have understood that then.
Well.
So never mind, none of that happened.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So Selena's just gonna hand over, she's gonna get the general vibe of the conversation, and she's just gonna hand over the liquefied vial of...
She went a little too
I got
ham, if you could say that.
Yeah.
Celine just holds up the hilt, and it's just like...
Oh,
Hmm.
I have this one. It's like the other ones. It's a little chilly, but it's good. And then I got this one, and it can spy on you, so be careful.
Oh,
There you go.
it's a one of the spy ones.
Yeah, Herbert really likes him, but he told him he can't eat this one.
I wonder if it's
If you
possible
finish with it, he would like it though.
to spy back through it.
That'd be cool.
That would be
That'd be
interesting.
very interesting,
I wouldn't
actually.
see why not.
Well, I'm
They're
glad,
talking in
Norla, you
infernal
took a
stuff.
whole sample as I requested.
Oh, that's a whole sample. That is a whole one mushroom. Liquefied already, but pre-liquefied for your convenience. But a whole one sample.
I'm pretty sure everybody here is giving Celine the same look of the "you have to be kidding me," right?
No.
I'm definitely doing that.
Anybody else? Bright's trying to be polite.
I'm still trying to figure out what
Stare.
everybody's saying because I don't know these languages. Everyone's
All
talking
you
in
know is
infernal.
something was said, and all of a sudden, all eyes were on Celine.
Oh, I think the eyes were on me for a minute, and I was just like, "What? I didn't do it." I mean, probably.
Why we just every day with you people. A break cannot be caught.
I'm an investigator. My job is to put people's feet to the coals.
Well,
kind of in the name. It's in the job.
Oh no, it's he's expecting it from Jacob. It's everyone else.
I am sad that a full sample wouldn't be able to be collected here. I suppose I can try and locate other locations to collect
Jacob.
more.
There's charred
Jacob just-
remains, that's it.
Jacob
Well, we have
gestures
the
with his
frosty
own
one.
sample,
Jacob gestures.
with the sample that he's acquired, which
Oh,
I believe
well,
is
look
in
at that.
far better condition.
Oh, spiral cut even.
Well,
Perfect for
Still-
soup.
it is still intact and ends up providing a baseline of investigation, so I thought that it would be appropriate to end up taking, as the rest seem to be sauteed.
Well, not this one.
Or liquefied. Or frozen.
Well, I'm
It's
glad
not
you were able
that
to
frozen.
obtain a sample,
Thought
Investigator Stillwaters, but I'm not going to ask you to part with it, as you need that for whatever official mission that you might be on. You said you're from Green Shield, yes?
At no point did I end up saying so.
I mentioned it.
Someone mentioned.
Huh.
Yeah, no. Mordecai did mention that he was from Greenfield.
Oh, I know. Just seeing if he caught on. Like, does he know more than he thinks, or was he listening to the conversation?
Do you know a man by the name of Siphonix, Investigator Stillwaters?
Tavern goer, generous tipper. Apparently can become quite the life of the party.
Huh. Maybe that's where I've heard your name, or... Why do I feel so familiar? It's not even that I know. I know the things I know, and I know there's things that I don't know. And then, of course, there's the unknown unknowns. But
So the worst kind.
what is the feeling that I'm
feeling?
getting from you? It's baffling.
Deja vu?
And you know what? I would like to roll an insight against Mr. Howell.
Sure thing. So with a result of a 20 here, Mr. Halver is behaving oddly. Maybe not suspiciously, or it's suspicious at first, but as you're having this conversation and you're trying to measure his body language, you even just said before you worked with tieflings, you've been around them, so you're used to not all of them have pupils, and so you got to watch the eyes in different ways.
It's all in the tail.
Yeah, you got to watch the tail flicks and such. And he's acting in a suspicious manner, but maybe one that it's not that he's trying to hide something, but there's something a bit baffling not to you. Well, I mean, maybe to you, but about him, in the sense that he's having some kind of a struggle, almost like someone acts weird before, before they get sick, like before they throw up or before heat exhaustion or. You're as an investigator in some way in Green Shield, you would have been maybe a first responder to a crime scene, and so you've seen people kind of go into shock or just someone who has this kind of sense about them in a more I want to say a medical, but maybe more in a bodily sense of unease than trying to noodle something over and turn it over in their brain to come up with a quick alibi or a quick story, trying to be smart. This Mr. Halver seems to be having some kind of an episode. I mean, he is an older tiefling, so maybe he has a touch of senility or something's going on, but you're getting more of a bodily response than a manipulative response.
If that's the case, is there, just on a first glance, is there anything that seems out of place in this location? Like anything that might offer me some insight into this Mr. Halver and little, because I'm trying to get the measure of the man or the tiefling in this case.
If this is where he lives, it's kind of an old wind and sun racked shack. There's some fishing nets and some fishing poles. Like this is just a quaint shack. In a strong storm, it'll probably blow down. I mean, how long it's been here? Because it's been beaten for a while, but it doesn't look like this is some den of iniquity or like a smuggler's hideaway or something. This is just a very quaint area. Although I'll tell you what, give me a you're in there. This might be more of an investigation instead, as you're piecing clues together, because you can see what you see here. All right, 14. If he's paying a team, maybe they're working for cheap, but this is a very kind of a hermit lifestyle. That this shack might be able to have him and maybe one other person live here somewhat comfortably, kind of roughing it out natural circumstances. But they're all here, and when you're looking at the layout, because you're casing this place, it looks like Mr. Halver might have walked out of a back closet to meet you all. The door is closed, so you can't see what's in there. But in looking at things, this isn't exactly a palatial estate with several bedrooms or the like. And just on the things that you're seeing, unless for some reason there's a bonus room of some kind in here, that seems to be like a pantry or some other kind of a small storage area.
Well, I'm assuming then, Mr. Halver, that you were preparing dinner for your compatriots just now, yes?
Oh, yes, well, not quite, I'll be the one preparing the meal. I believe Noralai would be the one to do that once we're back home.
Oh.
Oh, it's my turn. Yeah.
Kind of looks. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Halver, and thank you very much for allowing me into your home.
Oh, yes, this is, I guess, a home away from home, you could say. But you're very welcome. I'm happy to cooperate with you, Jade Stillwaters. And he just sort of stops.
Yeah, immediately.
Wait, what?
Did you
Said Jade Stillwaters.
I did.
Did you know Jade? We didn't bring her to you. Did you meet her somewhere else?
The name seems familiar.
We might have talked about Jade in front of you.
Yeah. But it's weird to make a slip like that if you've only heard about someone.
Yeah.
I would that it were a
Especially-
slip. I don't think I'm even that clever, Bright.
Mr. Halver, have you ever encountered one Jade Stillwaters? For the record.
I don't believe that I have.
So why?
Maybe.
She went missing before we came here.
Why am I getting this feeling? And he's kind of rubbing his face. And Norlai, would you be a dear and can you fetch a chair for me, please? I have to sit down.
Mr. Halver, are you okay? We know you're.
You
And-
don't look
but-
alright.
You shouldn't. Like this all of a sudden.
It's been a stressful time. There are so many people that I've been talking to. There's so much going on. Maybe I'm having ideas sort of mix and jumble in my head. But it's been such a busy place lately. I wonder if Siphonix knew Jade.
Yeah, well, he met Jade.
He knew Jade.
I don't know that he knew her. Because every time we met Siphonix, Jade was elf, so to speak. But. Or a little.
Jacob, could you help an old man out with trying to figure this out? If I provide, if you can give me a description of your sister, and I were to provide an illusory simulation of her, could you help me identify her? It's an odd request from a civilian to a police officer, as I believe usually you're the one gathering facts, but I can't just... I've had dreams, and I've just talked with people, and there are... things are just so complex.
I
would...
can show you what she looked like. Here, poof. I'll minor image. And it's just going to be like a photograph. Because minor image is small. It's too small to make a real Jade. Maybe like a bust.
Mr. Halver looks over, and Jacob, what is your response as Bright is manufacturing the, I guess, last known look and incarnation of your sister?
It's not correct.
What do you mean it's not correct? I know what she looks like. I spent a lot of time with her. Oh, this must be hard. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to help.
Her smile was warmer than a summer's day. She had the clearest sky blue eyes. She had a unique paleness to herself. And yet, he would stand straight as a noble woman should. She was quick to laugh, and very quick for moments of sarcastic humor. A wit there was. Always playing with puzzles. He reaches for something in his satchel. He seems to be clenching onto it, rubbing his fingers along as, and a small piece pulls out a small piece of what appears to be yellow cloth. Maybe it was once a garment of some kind. She had her hair always short and maintained, always trying to end up keeping up with the noble women of Green Hair Shield. Always fascinated by the latest fashions. she would sew her own imitations of them in order to try and end up living up to the family name. She once ended up spending time as a maid when she was younger, always trying to dress to impress, and she would always be waiting for me. She'd be waiting for me when I returned home. That was when I was first brought in to, well, the garrison. She'd always make sure that food was upon the table when mother and father were not around. She would always look at me and be so proud.
Investigator, you mentioned hair. Was her hair the color of a midnight sky?
Yes. Yes, it was.
Change the. It looks like the version of Jade when she was. Original version. You know what I mean?
She. He kind of places his finger along the tattoo on the side of his face. He had a single line in the corner of the eye, down the cheek. A reminder of better times.
Yes. I seem to recall the hair, the depth, the darkness, just something so vast and dark, but not necessarily menacing, just there. A nothing that was something, and why do I just see the hair? Mr. Halver's kind of, he shakes his head some. Maybe it's everywhere. They're just strands that connect. And Mr. Halver seems to be like he's starting to tear up. And Jacob, maybe I don't know. Maybe you're getting a little misty-eyed yourself, but for a moment you swear you see where a tear rolls down Mr. Halver's cheek. Is it like shiny? Is it just maybe it's catching the light? It almost looks like a sparkling silver. That trail that's left behind the tear before it kind of goes back to being his natural vivid tiefling shade.
Jacob walks over to Mr. Halver, pulling out a napkin of sort and wipes his tears.
Thank you. Yeah, you're there, kind of dabbing, and it's just difficult. All of these thoughts and everything that happened. It's tough on an old man like me, and I'm so tired. I'm so tired.
Mr. Halver, can I get you anything? Are you too cold or too hot? Or
as he pulls his hands away, and his eyes definitely, well, for tiefling eyes, they're kind of bloodshot. Maybe it's easier to tell because it's, mostly just not pupil or iris, but and now it Norla, you didn't know Mr. Halver wore mascara, because it seems to be actually like kind of coming down the cheeks here, And Jacob, as you are dabbing his cheek with a handkerchief, the makeup or whatever actually seems to stick and peel up with your handkerchief. And it actually looks like hair. And Mr. Halver just sort of is racked once again. What? 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 And why? And questions. And hair continues to pour out of his eyes and his face, kind of growing black hair. And Jacob, the hair wraps like it's on your handkerchief, and it kind of starts wrapping around you. What is happening? I just can't contain it anymore. And Mr. Halver starts heaving and racking in a fit of sobbing, but his body just seems to be convulsing.
I'm trying to get Jacob away from Mr. Halver.
Everyone step back. Wall of force to encase Mr. Halver.
Okay. An invisible wall of force springs into existence. Is this hemispherical dome, or are you how are you constructing this?
Well, I wanted to surround him, so I'm not entirely sure the specifics of the room we're in right now. So just like whatever, I mean, yeah, it would be the dome, but I wanted to enclose him as much as it can enclose him.
Sure. All right. So you quickly you put up this wall of force. It severs the strands, but Jacob, you're still struggling as they're kind of like crawling over you, like I don't know, spiders, centipedes, or like a very wily snake.
I'm trying to pull some of them off of him just to try and.
Okay. Celine, what are you doing as this is going on?
Chewing, apparently.
Enjoy.
What are you doing?
Eating popcorn, watching the show.
Yeah, just had something in my mouth. I'm sorry.
Fine.
So
Yeah,
the house
Celine's gonna be helping Jacob, but as she's seeing this, she's like, "Look, I know we're in a panic, but I need to ask this question. What does the name Shonorooth mean to you?"
Noralai, what are you doing as this happens? I want to get your initial reactions first, and then we'll play it out.
I'm a mage hand Herbert outside, and tell Fenry to go outside.
All right.
Save the animals.
All right. All right. So now we'll cut back to Jacob. You're struggling as this thing has your hanky, and Celine is asking you, like, Mordecai's trying to physically help, and Celine is kind of there, hey buddy, you okay? But is asking, what is the, what does this mean to you?
Yeah, at this point, Jacob is trying to end up staying calm as he's trying to tear this off. Mordecai's tugging it, like at this point, it feels like one part of his arm's going this way, the other parts of his arm's going this way, and whatever he's pulling on is going this way. It feels like his arm is about to break.
Nothing at all.
It means nothing to me. It means nothing to me. It means nothing to me. Should it mean something? Is this really the time to be talking right now?
While you're having this conversation, and the hair is slowly going now, like Mordecai, you're tugging at it, and this is tough stuff. It's still continuing to entwine, and it's coming up close to your face and your tattoos on your cheek. Mr. Halver here collapses on the floor, and his body is starting to lose whatever fight it's in, and you all see that he begins growing in size, and as he does, he bursts through this tiefling skin that was surrounding his body, Well, I mean, you don't really see this because you have your own problems going on here, but for the rest of you, well, especially Bright, you see a silver skin emerge underneath, but you're also now starting to see wings growing out of his back and kind of like rupturing out, as this is a very painful thing that's happening. However, in between patches of scales is long, silken, sable hair. And especially for his face, he just has long, smooth, silky black hair sort of like pouring off of his face. Like even more than like an old kung fu master has eyebrows that kind of come off the sides like waterfalls and in the Fu Manchu. Like you're getting a lot of that, but he has even more as the hair just also kind of continues to grow down. And you have this bright silvery scale. And we talked about this midnight sky. Like you're getting like almost a shimmer of silver scales in the night sky as he grows. And as he does, the wooden floor of the shack shatters and he falls down through the floor. Now, not through the wall of force here, but he continues to pulse and grow as he is writhing and screaming. What is, he's asking himself, or rhetorically, or he's asking direct questions of all of you, what's happening, but he can't seem to get more than a couple words out. We cut back inside on the other side of the wall to what's happening. Bright, are you just observing? You're concentrating on the wall of force, but are you doing anything else?
So the wall of force concentration, that's kind of hampering my spellcasting a little bit. So I'm just gonna warn everybody to get out. I want you to. And I don't know what's gonna happen to him. And the wall should contain him, but I don't know what's gonna happen. And everything is gonna be crazy now. So I'm sorry, Mr. Halver, if you can hear me. I don't know how to help you. Anything I can do, just let me know. I know I owe you a favor, and I want to pay it back right now. That's all.
Norlai, what are you doing?
I am watching in horror.
Okay, noted.
I'm trying to rip strands off of Jacob.
Sure. You are now. Fortunately, they're not like crawling down you, but I mean, they're kind of wiggling, almost like it's sentient in your hand. Yeah.
Is this the same thing that happened to the thread that happened in my hair?
Except 1,000 times more. Yes.
Yes.
But yeah, you're getting this kind of like wet, extremely black, silky hair that seems to be able to move on its own. Celine, what are you doing?
Did I get an answer to my question?
Jacob didn't. He said it doesn't mean anything to him. At least what I caught.
And also, it's not the time.
Yeah.
Can you do anything?
I have an idea. I have no idea whether this is going to work or not, but maybe. It's time.
Help?
It's time.
Okay.
It's time.
Divine intervention.
It's time.
All right. So you are level 10. So this
1d100.
is. So we'll have an intervention on a 91 to 100.
It's a 10 to it's 1 to 10.
Oh, is it 1 to 10? Oh, all right. No.
Yeah, it's
6 to 1, half dozen to the other. All right. Sure. 1 to 10.
nah. So Selena's making this prayer.
Hail Mary.
Yep. You gotta pray the great old ones away here. Jacob, the
Holy
hair.
just full of creepiness.
The hair, as it's been going up, splits as some strands are pouring into your cheek tattoo, and the other one seems to now like get into the base of the one on the other side of your head. And the hair, not necessarily painfully, but to others who are watching, the hair seems to be like going into your face, like you're slurping up spaghetti through your cheeks.
That's a rather morbid. That's a rather how you would say macabre image.
The hemispherical wall of force seems to like the inside of it is now is just covered with this black hair, so you can't see what's going on inside.
I
Helping drag
can't.
Jacob out.
Yeah, no, I can't do anything.
It's at this point, if that can't be stopped, then the security of everyone in the room needs to be of primary concern, and that includes Mr. Halver. So at this point, with Jacob's
Last for 10
1-3,
minutes.
yeah. He's going to purposely push Mordecai towards the door with the one hand. Like, he's trying to keep this one bit that's completely covered with this hair that wants to make it into his face, into his skin, and he's trying to push Mordecai away, like, to get clear, get safe.
Then what we'll
He's not
do...
going to put a civilian in danger.
So, Mordecai, you're pushed back. All this is happening. We have this now almost like black egg resting in the center of this seaside shack. Jacob, the hair finishes slurping into your skin, and you push Mordecai back, and there's just a moment where everything is tense, but nothing is necessarily happening. And at this moment, I want to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and resolve the things that are happening.